This is great travel documentary where we tell the stories no one else will. Have you ever wondered what it's like for homeless people to survive in a city as glamorous as San Francisco? A place that looks perfect from the outside? Here, you'll find the iconic Golden Gate Bridge, the timeless charm of its cable cars, and neighborhoods like Chinatown and the Mission District, where every corner pulses with life. But beneath the postcard-perfect scenes, there lies a sobering reality few ever see. San Francisco is grappling with a deep-rooted and complex homelessness crisis. Every night, thousands of people in the city are left to sleep on sidewalks, in their vehicles, or beneath makeshift shelters. While homelessness is a widespread issue across the United States, it feels especially jarring in a city celebrated for its wealth and cutting-edge innovation. Soaring housing prices, a critical lack of genuinely affordable homes, and a maze of social and economic hurdles have made securing stable shelter nearly out of reach for many. I met John, a man who once worked as an engineer at a major tech company. A serious illness took away his job, his home, and now he's left living on the streets, struggling to survive. His story is not unique. Stories like John's are unfolding every day in this city, where growth and wealth only seem to highlight the deep inequities beneath the surface. Most importantly, we hear firsthand from those living this reality. We'll also draw comparisons with other major cities and consider what real, lasting solutions could look like in the fight against homelessness. If you're ready to dive deeper into this issue, comment 9 below, and let's start exploring how we can make a difference in the lives of those who need it most. According to the 2024 point-in-time count, around 8,323 individuals in San Francisco are experiencing homelessness, with 2,900 of them living without shelter, spending their nights in tents, vehicles, or directly on the city's sidewalks. With a population nearing 875,000, this gives San Francisco one of the highest per capita homelessness rates in the country. The gap between those who have stable housing and those who do not is more apparent than ever. It's important to understand the distinction between sheltered and unsheltered. Sheltered individuals have temporary access to emergency shelters or transitional housing, while unsheltered people sleep in areas that were never meant for habitation, under freeway overpasses, on park benches, or in alleyways. These spaces, designed for travel or leisure, have become desperate refuges for those with no other choice. In neighborhoods such as the Tenderloin and parts of the Mission District, the crisis is impossible to ignore. Rows of tents, sleeping bags along curbs, and makeshift shelters crafted from cardboard and tarps tell a story of deep-rooted challenges. This is not a voluntary lifestyle, it is a last resort. When survival is the only goal, living in these conditions becomes a necessity, not a choice. The visibility of homelessness in these areas highlights the severe gaps in the housing system and the broken social safety net. Residents, small business owners, and nonprofit organizations are left balancing concerns about health hazards, street safety, and sanitation, while still striving to treat unhoused individuals with dignity and care. Community responses vary, from heartfelt outreach to growing frustration. Some advocate for stronger policies and the removal of encampments, while others argue that without affordable housing, these actions simply shift the problem elsewhere. But beneath the statistics are real people. Many of them were once stable, employed, and housed. A job loss, health crisis, or unexpected emergency was all it took to send their lives spiraling. The harsh reality of losing one's home in a city like San Francisco is more fragile than most people realize. It's not just about losing a roof. It's about the collapse of an entire foundation of stability that most of us take for granted. Have you ever stopped to think what it would be like to lose your home in one of America's most expensive cities? It's not just a statistic. It's the reality for thousands who once lived just like you. San Francisco is known for having some of the highest housing prices in the country. Renting a modest one-bedroom apartment can cost anywhere between $3,000 and $3,500 a month, well beyond the reach of many low- and middle-income earners. The gap between wages and housing costs is a chasm that many simply cannot cross. The situation becomes even more difficult due to a severe shortage of affordable or subsidized units. Long waiting lists, strict eligibility requirements, and a lack of new low-income developments make it nearly impossible for many to secure stable housing. At the heart of the crisis lies a simple imbalance. There just aren't enough affordable units to go around. Although the city requires that a portion of new construction be reserved for below-market-rate housing through its inclusionary housing program, the pace of development has fallen behind the rising demand. This shortfall leads to fierce competition for limited options and drives rental prices even higher. The price of the lowest, cheapest hotel room was $550 a month years ago. Now, it's gone up to $1,500 to $2,000 a month. And I don't even get that much from my retirement check. The SSI doesn't even come close. I'm trying to get a discount room, but even though we've gotten donations constantly, I still haven't seen the rooms being built to accommodate thousands of homeless people who are trying to find a place to stay. For many residents teetering on the edge, a mix of economic and personal challenges often pushes them into homelessness. Irregular gig work, part-time jobs, and unstable industries contribute to income volatility. A sudden health issue or family emergency can wipe out savings overnight, forcing impossible choices between rent, medical care, or basic needs. Survivors of domestic abuse without safe alternatives or support may find themselves with no place to turn once they flee danger. Health issues are a constant shadow for many living without a home. While not every individual facing homelessness struggles with addiction or mental illness, a large number wrestle with serious health complications. From chronic diseases left unmanaged to mental health conditions that go untreated for years, the lack of consistent medical care often pushes people further from stability. These challenges don't just happen alongside homelessness, they fuel it. In San Francisco, the link between health and housing is undeniable. And any honest conversation about being homeless in America must confront how these two crises feed into each other, creating a cycle that's incredibly hard to escape. This cycle is not just a statistic, it's a daily reality for thousands. People living on the streets face not only the physical dangers of the environment but the mental strain of surviving without a home. For many, their health issues become a barrier to employment and housing, which in turn makes escaping homelessness nearly impossible. This intersection of health problems and homelessness isn't just an isolated issue, it's a systemic failure. Without addressing both at the same time, the crisis will only continue to grow, trapping more people in a vicious cycle of poverty and ill health. The need for an integrated solution that combines healthcare access with affordable housing has never been more urgent. San Francisco's strategy to end homelessness is heavily influenced by the Housing First program. Prior to addressing concerns like drug use, mental health, or job training, this approach prioritizes obtaining long-term, secure housing. Housing First puts an emphasis on getting people into shelter as soon as possible, as opposed to previous systems that demanded sobriety or program participation before they could get housing. A person's ability to use available support services improves dramatically after they have found stable housing and are no longer living on the streets. San Francisco is home to a number of Housing First navigation centers that provide an alternative to typical shelters by providing a more accommodating and caring setting. People are able to remain with their spouses, pets, and possessions at these facilities, which helps to remove one of the main obstacles that prevents people from seeking shelter: these variables. For many people experiencing homelessness, these centers provide a more all-encompassing solution than just a place to stay. They also provide on-site services such as case management, legal help, and job placement. Unfortunately, regular emergency shelters are still too full, too rigid, and sometimes don't provide enough privacy. Thus, the demand for these services continues to outstrip their capacity. Numerous communities have already shown the efficacy of Housing First. Lives are being changed in San Francisco because of it. After getting a permanent residence, approximately 3/4 of program participants have been able to keep their jobs and housing steady. This exemplifies the need of fixing people's housing situations before tackling any of the other complicated difficulties they may encounter. This method provides many people with the security they need to start again. San Francisco has implemented many programs to combat homelessness, including Housing First. At the height of the COVID-19 epidemic, one of the most noteworthy initiatives was Project Room Key. In an effort to contain the COVID-19 pandemic, This initiative converted abandoned hotels and motels into emergency shelters for those experiencing homelessness. Following this achievement, Project Home Key was established to provide housing alternatives for the longer term via the acquisition and conversion of existing hotels and motels into permanent residences. These initiatives are essential, but they can only continue with consistent financing and vigilant monitoring over the long run. Housing First and Project Home Key are obviously doing their share to end homelessness in a significant and sustainable way. But they won't be able to help thousands of people who are still living on the streets until they get funding and expand. Voters boldly elected Proposition C, a legislation that taxes companies with yearly revenues above $50 million. The hundreds of millions of dollars earmarked go straight into housing, mental health treatment, shelters, and other services. The most pressing issue today is carrying out the plan so that the allocated money do not get stuck in red tape but rather provide tangible results in the field. Your participation not only sheds light on the cultural differences and daily struggles faced by those without homes in the United States, but it also helps us understand the homeless in America's situation on a deeper level. We can provide a platform to the underrepresented by working together to expose the hidden realities and give a voice to the often ignored stories and perspectives. There is a lot more nuance to the reality of homelessness in San Francisco than what most people think. Some people had secure employment and were living nicely until they were hit hard by a medical emergency or a layoff. Still others are fleeing dangerous situations at home. Many people struggle to maintain steady work due to physical or mental health issues that do not go away. Even with a full-time job, some people in this city still can't afford the rent, which is among the highest in the nation. Have you ever pondered the possibility that someone may manage to work a job every single day and still wind up living in a vehicle or a shelter? The stark contrast between stability and homelessness in a city like San Francisco is highlighted by this brutal reality, which affects a lot of people. Limitations may make even the most well-intentioned help tools difficult to utilize. Limits on people's freedom of movement, such as curfews or possessions prohibitions, could drive them away. As an example, many shelters do not accept animals, even though some people depend on them for emotional support. People avoid conventional shelters for a variety of reasons, including safety concerns, robbery fears, and disease transmission fears. For that reason, many people think the navigation center method works better. A more inclusive and community-oriented atmosphere is created as a result of the lowering of such obstacles. Homelessness is more than just not having a place to sleep. It's about the monotony of living without a regular address to get mail or apply for employment, a secure place to sleep at night, and privacy. Even mundane activities like taking a shower, doing laundry, or charging a phone might seem like an uphill struggle. It may be difficult to get to work or the doctor due to a lack of public transit options. These difficulties highlight the need of having genuine, all-encompassing support networks. Since those without homes are more than just numbers. All they are is human beings attempting to live each day to the best of their abilities. Among U.S. cities, New York City has more homeless people than any other. Contrary to what you may expect in San Francisco, the ground reality is quite different. As a result of New York's one-of-a-kind right-to-shelter statute, most of the city's homeless people spend the night in shelters. Even while the system puts a huge financial burden on the city, which is legally required to offer a bed for everyone in need, fewer people are observed sleeping on the streets as a consequence. The absence of a comparable statute in San Francisco, on the other hand, makes the city's homeless population more noticeable. Looking at these two cities side by side shows how different the real estate markets are and how different official policies and society attitudes are when it comes to homelessness. It provides a compelling perspective from which to examine the larger issue of homelessness in the United States. I am in Los Angeles. Over 60,000 individuals live without homes in Los Angeles County, with a disproportionate number residing in notoriously homeless neighborhoods like Skid Row. Similar to San Francisco, Los Angeles has a high percentage of people living on the streets and a chronic shortage of affordable housing. However, when it comes to the administrative organization and physical size, the disparities become apparent. The vastness of Los Angeles makes it more challenging to organize outreach and provide uniform assistance to all of its neighborhoods. Seattle, Washington. Due to increasing housing prices and inequality, the number of people experiencing homelessness in Seattle is on the rise. The prevalence of tent encampments has increased, and the difficulties caused by inclement weather, including rain, cold, and dampness, are comparable to the difficulties faced by those living on the streets of San Francisco during foggy nights and unexpected cold spells. Much like San Francisco, Seattle's burgeoning tech industry has increased costs and widened economic inequality, but it has also benefited some. Housing prices are through the roof, and there is a critical lack of affordable housing in cities all around the country, including San Francisco, Seattle, Los Angeles, and New York. While individual municipalities have attempted to alleviate homelessness in their own ways, the outcomes demonstrate that this method is insufficient. This trend throughout the country begs the urgent question: how significant are macroeconomic trends and national housing policy in explaining the prevalence of homelessness in individual cities? Recurring housing crises in these major cities highlight the need for strong action on all levels, not just at the municipal, state, and federal. The first step in ending homelessness is increasing the availability of affordable homes. Reducing red tape to speed up building, boosting public money for vouchers, supportive housing and public development, and improving inclusionary housing regulations are all necessary steps in this direction. Developers should allocate a bigger number of units to below-market prices. Another effective tactic is to make habitable dwellings out of previously unoccupied areas, such as rundown office buildings, deserted hotels, and abandoned shops. The work that San Francisco is doing via Project HomeKey is admirable, but it has to be expanded if it is to keep up with the increasing annual number of persons experiencing homelessness. One component is affordable housing. Many housed people may still find it difficult to remain off the streets in the absence of mental health treatment, job opportunities, and easily available health care. Individuals are better able to overcome complicated personal obstacles when they get complete support, therapy for trauma or mental illness, training to be job-ready, treatment for addiction, and legal assistance in addition to the housing-first strategy. For this strategy to work, it is crucial that local organizations, charities, and grassroots groups work together closely. While Proposition C financing gives us financial clout, it also means we have to be accountable for how we use it so we don't get stuck in red tape. The rich companies and influential tech sector in San Francisco are both contributing to and perhaps alleviating this problem. Some have put money into it via charity and employment initiatives, but more people need to become involved for the long haul. If the city wants to end housing instability and have a steady workforce in such an expensive climate, it needs developers and corporate alliances to work together, even if they typically fight regulation. San Francisco provides more than just breathtaking scenery for those in search of significant encounters. It shows how complicated city living is in the U.S. As the world looks to the city as a leader in innovation and growth, the homelessness epidemic stands in sharp contrast. It is possible to make a trip that is more meaningful than just seeing the sights by getting engaged, whether that's by volunteering, going to community art spaces, or finding out about local projects. Decades of economic upheaval, housing shortages, and governmental blunders have contributed to San Francisco's chronic homelessness crisis. However, it is also a city that is making strides because to courageous changes, smart financing, and a strong network of community-based activists. Even if there isn't a magic bullet, many are working on answers. A housing voucher, a repurposed structure, or a counseling program are all interconnected pieces of a bigger picture. There has to be a concerted, multi-pronged approach, quick access to shelter, plans to avoid future outbreaks, and ongoing assistance for those most in need. Important strides have been made in implementing the Housing First Plan, receiving the monies allocated by Proposition C, and expanding Project HomeKey. However, policies alone are not enough to maintain progress. Consistent community pressure, creativity, and political will are necessary. Countless individuals, including working-age adults, elderly, and families, are precariously balancing between living in their vehicles or on the streets, only a salary away from experiencing homelessness. Finding a happy medium between immediate need, like navigation centers, and more permanent improvements is becoming more critical for San Francisco's future. Are local communities, corporate titans, and municipal leaders capable of continuing the struggle? They should be able to do it with the help of San Francisco's progressive reputation and wealth. When you find yourself strolling through this famous metropolis, don't stop at the picture-perfect sites. Venture into the less traveled areas. Back a community organization. Show up to a shelter. Thank you for joining us on this powerful journey through San Francisco's homelessness crisis. Behind the city's iconic sites, thousands are struggling to survive, just like John, whose life was turned upside down by an unexpected illness. But there's hope. Programs like Housing First and Project Homekey are already making a difference, providing homes and support to those in need. Now it's time for action. Like and subscribe to help us amplify these voices. Together, we can create lasting change. Let's make a difference.